Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayet Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nanda Gopakumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha Umagyanatmirandhasya Jnananjanachalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupaha Kada Mayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guroho Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrinda Vaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha Kalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shrivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishthaya Bhutale Srimate Radhanath Swami Niti Namine Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namine Namaste Saraswati Gauravani Pracharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarane Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangam Langayate Girim Yat Kripatamaham Vande Shri Gurum Dintaranam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram Hari Om Tat Sat Hare Krishna. So we are discussing the chapter of Rudra Gita, the song sung by Lord Shiva. So Rudra is one of the names of Lord Shiva. There are said to be a total of 11 Rudras who are manifested in different ways in this universe. They're all various manifestations of the Shambhu Tattva, having various names, and they are mentioned in the Bhagavatam. Of course, the most popular one of the Rudras is Lord Shankar, who resides on Kailas. But there are other Rudras also who are different forms of Lord Shiva, who reside in different places. So this is a very interesting pastime where Lord Shiva is playing the role that he enjoys most playing. We were discussing in Chaitanya Charitamrita, when we discussed how besides Krishna, all other forms of the Lord, even the expansions of the Lord, right from Baladev, Sankarshan, Mahavishnu, all incarnations, they all have a seva bhav towards the Lord. So even though they are Ishvara Tattva, they have a bhav of servitude towards Krishna. And they enjoy that mood of servitude because it gives them greater pleasure than assuming the position of a Lord. And that is the beauty of bhakti. That is the special thing about bhakti. And that is what they really enjoy. And we discussed this point there that while the whole world is trying to be God, trying to be powerful, trying to enjoy by being a controller, the greatest forms of Godhead are enjoying being a servant. And that is their aspiration. Anyway, so in this particular pastime, even though Lord Shiva is Maheshwara. He is the great Lord. He's above all the other devatas, the demigods, because he's not a living entity. Lord Shiva is an incarnation of the Lord, special incarnation, a Guna Avatar, who's manifested for the purpose of material existence, for managing the affairs of the material existence, especially the Shambhu Tattva and the various Rudras. That's why one of the names of Lord Shiva is Bhava. If you remember, we were discussing this beautiful shloka which glorifies Lord Shiva. So meditation, so dhyanam on Lord Shiva. Karpura Gauram Karunavataram Samsara Saram Bhujagendraharam Sada Vasantam Hridayarvinde Bhavam Bhavani Sahitam Namami. Bhavam Bhavani Sahit. Bhava together with Bhavani. Who's Bhavani? Bhavani is goddess Durga, Parvati. Chhatrapati Shivaji would worship Bhavani for power to subdue the evil oppressors who were persecuting the Hindus, especially the Mughals and the Nizams also. Bhavam Bhavani. So Bhavani and Bhava. What is the meaning of the word Bhava? Bhava means material existence. Very interesting. That is one of the names of Lord Shiva, Bhava, because his manifestation is very specifically for this purpose. He plays a very, very important role. So, of course, we don't want to go today into the details of that. We have discussed that across many, many classes. But essentially, the tattva of Lord Shiva represents the contact between matter and spirit, the transformed consciousness, Shambhu. The scriptures explain this transformed consciousness is manifested in the three modes. The pure consciousness, when it comes in contact with matter, is Vaikarika, Taijasa, and Tamasa. And Lord Shiva controls this. It comes from the Ahankara. So Lord Shiva, of course, he is a great Lord. And while he performs his duties as a great Lord, including for his own devotees, more than playing that role, he enjoys playing the role of what he is actually in the innermost core of his heart. Sometimes even Bhavani, who is Bhavani? The wife of Bhava is Bhavani. So from the name Bhava comes the name Bhavani. Sometimes even Bhavani, because Lord Shiva is so absorbed in deep meditation and in chanting the names of the Lord, and nobody knows what exactly he is doing. Sometimes even Parvati Devi will go to him. Bhavani will go and ask him, what is it that you are doing? I am your wife, don't hide anything. Please tell me. You are relishing some special nectar which you are not explaining to me. And that time he reveals the innermost core of his heart. And the innermost core of his heart, like all other expansions of the Lord, is that he is a guru at heart. He's a sevak of Bhagwan, and every sevak of Bhagwan, a true sevak, a pure sevak, is also a guru, especially those who are compassionate. And Lord Shiva is very, very compassionate. Karunavataram, Karpura Gauram, Karunavataram. Lord Shiva is very kind. He is Ashutosh. You don't even have to be in the mode of goodness to please him. Even if you're in Rajogun, even in Tamogun, Lord Shiva is so liberal. Not that he'll give devotion to those who are in Tamogun, but he will try, he will, even with something little, he'll give them a blessing to raise them slowly higher. Slowly higher. So Lord Shiva's devotees are also in Tamogun. There are worshippers of Lord Shiva in Rajogun. There are worshippers of Lord Shiva in Sattvagun also. But the Lord Shiva that we are seeing in this chapter is the pure devotee Lord Shiva, the Guru Lord Shiva. Krishna explains in the Shastra that when a living entity, there is a verse in the Bhagavatam, I do not remember that shloka, but essentially that shloka says that when the living entity is ready to sincerely seek out the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and they are sincere, then Krishna directs the Guru to meet with that particular prospective candidate. Prabhupada would often say, by Krishna's grace, we get Guru, and then by Guru's grace, we get Krishna. Okay, so Krishna doesn't immediately come. First, he sends Guru. Because we are so unqualified, we cannot even have a relationship with Krishna yet. But if we are sincere, Krishna sends Guru to train us, to guide us. So these Prachetas, these 100 sons of Prachina Barhi, very noble. Prachina Barhi was very busy doing yajnas, karma kanda. And he was super excited. He said all the time yajnas were going on. And his 100 sons, he said, oh, I also want you to be Prajapatis, go and procreate. But they said, no, we must do austerities first. Because we want to produce first-class children. This is a very important Vedic concept. Vedic concept is not just about biology, that man and woman come together. They understand that the soul which is attracted to the womb of the mother is very much dependent on the consciousness that both the mother and the father have at the time of conception. That is a very, very essential ingredient. And that is why there are so many considerations around time, situation, and the Shastras give a lot of guidelines. Because all these things affect the modes affect our mind, and based on our consciousness, a particular living entity gets attracted to take shelter of a womb. It is the consciousness which attracts a living entity having a corresponding karma to come. So these Prachetas, being well versed with this understanding, they knew that they had to go and perform austerities to purify themselves. So it was not about biological qualification. They were biologically qualified. But they were trying to become qualified internally, energetically, spiritually, to become very pure. I'll just slightly distract. I'll tell you one small pastime, how effective this is. It is said when Hiranyakashipu, sometimes people wonder, oh, why Hiranyakashipu got such a great soul as Prahlad to come when he was so demoniac, right? I mean, I just mentioned this point. How does this make sense? So the pastime, I don't know which Puran this is mentioned. It is mentioned one of the Puranas. That Hiranyakashipu, when he was performing a lot of austerities, to disturb his austerities, the Devatas would come. So the Devatas came and sat on a branch nearby where he was performing austerity. And as he was trying to meditate, they were continuously, the birds were chirping and making the sound of the name of Vishnu, or Om Namo Narayana, something to that effect. Om Namo Narayana, Om Namo Narayana. And if you really hate somebody and somebody is uttering their name, what kind of reaction it creates in our body, right? Especially, if we are very conditioned souls, it produces, somebody we really hate, you're trying to focus your mind and somebody's taking the name of your ace enemy. So he became very agitated and he shooed away the birds, but they were Devatas, they would disappear, they would come back again. And after some time, he became so frustrated and tired that he said, okay, I'll come back and meditate another day. He went back home. Retired hurt. He went back home. And Kayadu was there. Kayadu, sorry? Your project finished so early, you are back home. You had gone for a long time austerity. I said, no, these devatas are troubling me. I'll go another day. I have to fix these people. They are creating a lot of disturbance for me. So it is said when he came back that night, he was so disturbed and Kayadu was serving him, and apparently so happened that they had a union that night. And said that during that union, Hiranyakashipu's mind was still fixed on what had happened earlier in the day of the devatas chanting Om Namo Narayana, Om Namo Narayana, because he was so disturbed by that episode. So continuously in his mind, this track was playing Om Namo Narayanaya, Om Namo Narayana. And even as they were together, that is what was playing in his consciousness. He wasn't so much in Rajogun. He was absorbed in remembering the holy name of the Lord, even though that was not his explicit intention. And it is said this was one of the factors which attracted. Of course, there would be so many other factors, but this was one explanation which is given, that how such a great soul as Prahlad got attracted to Hiranyakashipu, Mr. and Mrs. Hiranyakashipu. So this is the power of positive consciousness. So coming back to our pastime of the Prachetas, they were keen. Yes, we want to purify ourselves. So they were on their way. We have discussed this. I'm just doing a recap. And they came to a beautiful lake, and suddenly from there, Lord Shiva comes. Because Lord Shiva was sent by the Supreme Lord, because here these Prachetas were very sincere to make spiritual advancement. And they need guidance. Just like when Dhruva went out in the forest, the Lord sent Narad Muni. Correct? So you see across the Bhagavatam, whenever the disciple becomes sincere, or disciple meaning the aspiring disciple, Krishna sends the Guru. So here, Lord Shiva appeared as the Guru. And he instructed the Prachetas on the science of devotional service, and he instructed them on the science of devotion through the form of this prayer, which is known as Rudra Gita. Rudra Gita, the song by Lord Shiva. This is known as the hymn of liberation. So he gave this very, very beautiful mantra. And we have just come to this point where Lord Shiva is just about to speak. We are continuing from verse 33 onwards in the 24th chapter of the 4th canto. I don't think we'll complete the chapter today. There's so much to discuss. So today's class and the next class, I think both classes we will need to complete this chapter. So Lord Shiva tells the Prachetas, I am going to give you a very, very powerful mantra, which is Pavitram and Mangalam. And it is transcendental param. It is not a material vibration. It is not a karma kandiya mantra. If you chant this mantra that I am going to give you, then you will achieve Nishreyas Karam. Nishreyas Karam means you will achieve the supreme perfection. This is the topmost. So I've come to help you. So you don't just do material austerities, but you can actually attain the real goal of life. So the Prachetas stood with folded hands, listening very attentively, and Lord Shiva starts speaking. Now, the essence of what Lord Shiva says, I'm just going to give you a very quick overview. Lord Shiva is teaching the Prachetas how to meditate on the transcendental form of Lord Hari. Because that is the perfection of consciousness, isn't it? To be absorbed in remembering the Lord. If you remember in the Bhagavad Gita also, Krishna tells Arjuna in the 12th chapter, Mayyeva mana adatsva mayi buddhim niveshaya nivasaschasi mayyeva ata urdhvam na samshaya. Place your mind, place your intelligence in me. If you do that, you will live within me without fail. You live in me without fail. Na samshaya, there is no doubt. And then he starts speaking about those who cannot do this. Atha chitta samadhatum na shaknoshi maisiram. If you cannot focus your chitta on me like this, then I will give you alternate instruction. Then you can do this, then I'll give you another alternate. You cannot do this, I'll give you another alternate. Correct? If you remember the 12th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. So while Lord Shiva is going to give a meditative process to the Prachitas, and he's going to do that by giving a description of what form of the Lord they should visualize and meditate. The transcendental form, the very, very beautiful, attractive form of Lord Hari. Because when the chitta, when the Antakaran, when the consciousness is fixed on the Lord through the mind and the intelligence, then one always remains in connection with the Lord. Nivasishyasi mayeva, you will live within me if you fix your consciousness on me. Now this instruction is very simple, but it is not easy. Correct? Because actually this is all that I have to tell you and all that you need to hear. Isn't it? We can actually end all classes with this one instruction. What is the instruction? Fully focus your mind and intelligence on Krishna. Okay, end of all classes. Haribol, no more Zoom, nothing else needed. If you do this, you will live within the Lord. And the Lord says, I am in him and he is in me and everything is done, everything finished. No other instruction needed. Then you say, no, Prabhu, wait, don't go. I said, what happened? Prabhu, I know that I need to fix my mind, but how to fix the mind? Correct? That's what Arjuna also asked Krishna. No? You're asking me to fix the mind on meditation on the Lord. Vayor iva sudushkaram. I can control the raging wind, but I cannot control the mind. How do I focus my mind? Even for sages who are in the forest, no job, nothing, no wife, no distraction, sitting in a cave, also they cannot focus. They have to do so many things to focus. Yama, niyama, asana, pranayam, pratyahar, dharana, then they'll come to dhyan. And here the expectation is in the middle of the battle, or Krishna, you want me to, fix the mind on you and, how is it possible for a person who's in a job, in a profession and all this, how they can fix their mind on you? So the instruction is simple, but it is not easy, isn't it? Do you all agree? Anybody thinks it is easy? You can raise your hand. If anybody is able to fix their mind on the Lord without deviation, and then you don't need to join this class. Then I will attend your class because I cannot fix my mind on the Lord without deviation. So I want to hear from you how you have fixed. So the whole training of yoga, no matter what yoga, is ultimately to bring the mind to a point that it can be fixed on the Lord without deviation. And ultimately the word samadhi ultimately means that only. Samadhi means to be fixed. Samyak adhiyate asmin atma tattvam yathatmayam. When the consciousness is fully fixed in the realization of one's true eternal identity, which is in bracket, eternally a servant of Krishna, which means, of course, we are remembering Krishna if we are identifying ourselves as devotee or servant of Krishna. Where we can be fixed in that realization and that consciousness, day, night, sleeping, waking, taking bath, doing our job, while driving, while eating, while cooking, while arguing, while fighting, and whatever else we do. So that is where the training of the various yogas come, because they gradually elevate a person so that they can fix. Of course, the most natural way that the Gita and the Bhagavatam gives is Bhakti Yoga, because the whole process of Bhakti Yoga doesn't adopt an artificial means to train the mind to focus, but rather uses a very, very simple principle. And that simple truth is that the soul, by nature, is eternally attracted to the Supreme Soul. There's an inherent loving attraction, just like iron filings are attracted to a magnet. So if we just cultivate that attraction through the practice of sadhana bhakti, when that attraction manifests, once you are attached to somebody, it is never difficult to remember them. Then you can remember them always. Like a lover remembers the beloved, or a mother remembers a small child, no matter what is going on. It's always there in the consciousness, even as they are going about doing their other duties. So this kind of perfected consciousness, the easy solution is always love. And love is that natural function of the soul. It is not that this is some artificial trick. This is how it is supposed to be. Those who are not able to adopt this practice, that is why all these other practices of Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Ashtanga Yoga come in, where one has to artificially do various things to subvert the influence of material energy and somehow focus the mind on the Lord. Bhakti is so natural. And that's why I hear Lord Shiva is directly coming to the process of bhakti. He is not giving so many other detailed methods to them. But while he is giving a description of the beautiful form of the Lord, he is, before he goes to the beautiful description, he knows that the consciousness and the body needs to be purified properly for the prachetas to be able to fix their mind on the Lord. Without purification, nobody can fix their mind on the Lord. And that is why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also says, no, Cheto Darpanam Arjanam. You have to clean the chitta, because the chitta which is unclean cannot be fixed on the Lord. This is as simple as this. Cheto Darpanam Arjanam Bhava Mahadava Nirvapanam Shreya Kairava Chandrika Vitaranam Vidyavadu Jivanam Anandambudivardhanam Pratipadam Purnamrita Swadanam Sarvatmasnapanam Param Vijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtanam Sarva Atma Snapanam. Atma Snapan. Snapan means bath. Very clean, thorough bath of the soul. Totally the chitta becomes purified. With what? With Shri Krishna Sankirtanam. Param Vijayate. That is why it is all glorious. So here, Lord Shiva, while he gives the beautiful description of the transcendental form of how they should meditate on the Lord, before that, he explains to them how they should purify their self. And the self, of course, is the soul. The self also refers to the Antakaran. The self also refers to the body. Because if the body and the mind are not clean, the chitta will not be clean. If the chitta is not clean, the chitta cannot be focused on the Lord. It's as simple as that. And that is why even though we may not be doing Ashtanga Yoga, we are so focused on keeping our body and mind clean through various ways. The process that Lord Shiva is explaining here, because the prachetas are already significantly pure souls. They are very pious. They never had any bad habits. They are already quite pure. But just so that they remove any other obstruction in their meditation of the Lord, Lord Shiva, in the first almost 10 or 11 shlokas, teaches them how they should offer prayers to various elements in their body and mind, body and consciousness, so that through the grace of the deity, the Upasya Devata, or the controlling Devata. Upasya Devata means the form of the Lord which is supervising that particular element, or the demigod who is controlling that element in this material world. By their grace, those elements become purified. Our body is made of 24 elements, isn't it? The process of purification or ultimate spiritualization involves the spiritualization of all the elements also. It is not just about the soul. That is why a pure devotee's body is considered fully spiritual, because none of the elements are contaminated by the modes ultimately, qualitatively, because they are fully engaged in the Lord's transcendental service. The full body becomes spiritualized. That is why the body of a sannyasi who is supposed to be fully engaged in the Lord's service is not burned, but it is placed in samadhi. So the first 11 shlokas are like that. So I'm going to go through, I'm not going to be discussing all the finer points because there's a lot of deep analysis which may be too technical. I can do it or discuss it, but I think it may be a bit boring for some of you. I don't find it boring because I understand the technicality. Some of you may be newer to the Sankhya aspects and you may be a bit lost if I go into too much detail. So I'm going to give a broad overview of what is being explained without going into too much technicality. So Lord Shiva starts his prayers by glorifying the Lord, because he's praying to the Lord and he's asking the Prachetas to copy. Whatever I'm doing, you have to do exactly like that. So see, Guru is teaching by example. This is how to pray. So Lord Shiva is praying to the Lord and saying, Prachetas, please watch me carefully. He prays to the Lord, oh Lord, you are the best of the self-realized souls. We all want self-realization, but you are the best of the self-realized. Atma Vidvarya. He who understands his self fully, correct? All living entities, conditioned souls are looking for self-realization. But who's perfectly self-realized? The Supreme Self is perfectly self-realized. And why is he glorifying the Lord like that? Because I also want. Swastir astu me. I also want all auspiciousness for me. I also want to be self-realized. And that is why he's glorifying the Lord like that. See, many times in the scriptures when the Lord is glorified, you will see, and you will see this in many stotrams, you will see this in many kavachas. The style is a particular attribute, a particular bodily limb, a particular feature of the deity is glorified, and immediately the corresponding benediction in relation to that potency is sought by the devotee. You say the Narsingha Kavacha, very similar. Many stotras are like that. I'm not saying all are like this, but many are like this. So here also, for everything that is glorifying in the Lord, Lord Shiva is either explicitly or implicitly asking for a blessing. Here he says, Swastir astu me, let me also be perfectly self-realized. You are worshipable, my dear Lord, because you are, by virtue of the all perfect instructions you give, because whatever knowledge you give, everything is perfect. And that is why I'm worshipping you, so that I can also achieve that perfection. So he's indicating to the Lord first that I want to be qualitatively perfect. You are absolutely transcendental. I also want to attain the transcendental position. And that is swastirastu. That is the real desirable objective. We think of so many other things as what is desirable. Sometimes so many things we may say, when if Krishna actually happens to come in front of us suddenly and says, quickly ask for some benediction. How many of us are confident that we will actually ask for pure devotional service? Now we may say in class, because we will look bad if we say something else. But if Krishna tells you in private, anything you ask, I will not tell anybody. I will not tell Gaurachandra Das what you ask from me. I will not tell anybody in the devotees. You just private between you and me. Whatever you want, I'll give you. Anything. Only one thing you can ask. What will we ask? So unless we are actually convinced that this is the most desirable object, we will not ask. So swasti rastu, what is that swasti? Perfect realization of the self. Hmm? And what is that perfect realization of the self? That perfect realization of the self is described in the Bhagavatam as muktir hitva anyatha rupam swarupena vyavasthiti. The supreme liberation is nothing but perfectly being situated in one's own swarupa. And what is one's swarupa? Jivera swarup hoy Krishner nityadas. That the Jeev is spiritual and is eternally Krishna's servant. That is the perfection of swastirastam. So after having prayed to the Lord Shiva then prays to, because he knows that by his own example of prayers, he needs the prachetas to pray to the Lord so that their Antakaran becomes pure before they can fix the mind on the Lord. So Antakaran, now this Antakaran word is used very often. So Antakaran, in a very simple way, you can say inner sense or consciousness. Now, consciousness is a very generic word. The Antakaran must be fixed on the Lord. Sometimes the word chitta and Antakaran are in some places used synonymously, some places they are used slightly differently. But we'll not get into that discussion in detail. But generally, Antakaran composes of 4 aspects. Chitta, Mana, Buddhi, and Ahankar. Here, Chitta refers to, in very simple words, Chitta is consciousness, or the manifest consciousness, which includes the memory aspect. And that is why Krishna says, Chitta samadhatum na shaknoshi maistiram. You cannot fix your mind on me. So we want our conscious mind, our conscious awareness to be fixed on the Lord. But in terms of cognition, actively the mind, intelligence, and the false ego are aspects of consciousness which are continuously active. And that's why Antakaran, or the consciousness as a whole, comprises Chitta, Mana, Buddhi, Ahankar. If this is being too technical, it's okay. Do not get too disturbed about this. But the point is, if we want to fix our consciousness on the Lord fully, all these 4 must be purified. So Lord Shiva starts by praying to all these 4, by praying to the deity or the form of Lord Hari, which is the predominating deity for that element. So there are so many material elements, right? For the various material elements, there is a form of Vishnu, which is the predominating deity, the Upasya Devata, who is his ultimate controller from a spiritual sense. And then there are also a predominating deity, who is a Devata, who is known as the presiding deity of those various elements. And Lord Shiva prays both to the form of Lord Vishnu, who is controlling that element, as well as the Devata. But for these 4, Chitta, Ahankara, Buddhi, and Manas, these 4 are controlled, or the Upasya Devatas are the Chaturvyuha, Vasudeva, Sankarshan, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha. Very interesting, huh? Please remember, Vasudeva, Sankarshan, Aniruddha, and Pradyumna are the Upasya Devatas of Chitta, Vasudeva of Chitta, Sankarshan of Ahankara, Pradyumna of Buddhi, and Aniruddha of mind. They are the ones who are controlling this ultimately. So he prays to Vasudev, O all pervading Vasudev, the Lord of consciousness, Chitta. Please make my Chitta very peaceful. Because if it is not peaceful, how will it focus on the Lord? And unchanging, Kutasthaya. And make it conscious of bhakti by revealing your beauty. Swarochishe. So I want my Chitta to be engaged in you, but it will not be engaged in you unless it is peaceful, unless it is fixed and stable. If it is agitated, it cannot. Correct? This is our problem, right? Our mind is neither Shanta nor Kutastha. Correct? It's like a rabbit, no? When a rabbit is running on, I don't know how many of you have ever tried to catch a rabbit. I think from all of us here, only Sarva Lakshmi Mataji has a rabbit at home. Right? At home, I don't know how difficult it is. Sarva Lakshmi Mataji, is it easy or difficult to catch a rabbit?
Difficult.
Very difficult. Yeah.
Yeah.
Once we had gone to what is that place? Bukit Tinggi. There is a rabbit park. So there we tried, and it, about to catch, it jumps. You go ahead, about to catch, it jumps. Sometimes you catch, it will jump from your hand because it can slither away very easily. The body of the rabbit, even when you hold, no, it is very, very weird. Because I've held, I'm telling. I'm speaking from Vijnana, not Jnana. Realized knowledge. Because I've attempted this. So it's very difficult. It'll just run. Like a rabbit. So you want the rabbit to sit in one place and do something very difficult. It'll just go on running. So unless the mind has become Shanta, otherwise our mind is like rabbit. In Malay they say Arnab. If the mind is like that, how is it going to be fixed on the Lord? Because you need the rabbit mind to be fixed. Sometimes the mind is compared to monkey, rabbit, whatever. It's jumping. So we need it to be Shanta and Kutastha. And not only that, that is step one. What is step two? To be attracted. Swarochishe. Attracted by devotion towards the beautiful Lord. Then the Chitta will become peaceful and stable. So, O Lord Vasudeva, I pray like this to you. May my Chitta become like this. You are the controller of Chitta. O Lord Sankarshan. Lord Sankarshan is famous as the master of integration. Now, what is master of integration? He's the one, the attractive potency, the potency to bring things together and the potency to disintegrate things is what is the Sankarshan. Is known as the potency of integration and disintegration, because when you have potency of integration, you also have potency of disintegration. So the potency of Sankarshan, which creates the false ego and is the presiding deity, not presiding deity, is the upasya deity, the worshipable deity for ahankar, who's responsible both for the aggregation of elements and ultimately at the end of the universe responsible for the disintegration also. Sometimes some devotees say that the gravitational potency is also a manifestation of Sankarshan. Because these are the energies which keep things together. At the end of all creation, when the Lord Mahavishnu withdraws all material existence, the elements which are created through aggregation, they dissolve into their sources and become disintegrated. And again, it comes to Pradhan, right? From Pradhan to Mahatattva to all the elements, and a reverse process of disintegration happens. So Sankarshan is controlling, and Sankarshan is the Upasya deity of Ahankar. So he's praying, you are causing the integration and disintegration Hmm? So right now, I am integrated or attached by the sense of possessiveness to the material energy. My ahankar is sticking to the material energy. But please, let my mamatva, my sense of identity, my sense of belonging be fixed to the Lord. Let my sense of identity be fixed to the Lord. Let it be attached. So only when the devotee really feels strongly in his heart, the Lord is mine. I belong to the Lord. It is said in stages of devotion, at one point, the devotee initially thinks, even at an advanced level, he thinks that I belong to the Lord. But at very advanced stages, the devotee starts thinking the Lord belongs to me. Mamatva is mine. And not in an egoic sense, but the affection is so much. Correct? Just like the mother says, thinks this is my child. Or the wife will think this is my husband. So there is a sense of possessiveness. So the devotee has that kind of a possessiveness towards the Lord. Mamatva. Let me have that kind of possessiveness. So Sankarshan, you are the predominating deity who controls the false ego, and the false ego gives the identity. The mamatva comes from the false ego. So you please purify my false ego. So I have mamatva towards the Lord. Mamatva means possessiveness. And oh Pradyumna, who are the control, who is the upasya deity of buddhi, who, O Pradyumna, who are responsible for the growth of this entire universe and who enlightens the entire universe. Vishwa Prabodhaya. Because intelligence is what gives discernment and understanding to everybody. You please wake up my intelligence so that through intelligence I'll be fixed in bhakti. That's why, like the Chaitanya Charitamrita says, it is very important for the intelligence to be convinced, because when the intelligence is convinced, it will not disturb. The mind should be attracted to the Lord and the intelligence must be convinced about the bhakti conclusions. And that is why Krishna says, your chitta is absorbed in me and your buddhi is also fixed in me. Then you can start becoming properly fixed. So wake up my intelligence, O Pradyumna, I pray to you. And O Aniruddha, who is the supreme director and the upasya deity of the manas, the mind. The director of the mind, and the mind is the leader of all the senses, of all the indriyas. And who's the chief of all the senses? Is Rishikesh, the Supreme Lord. Please, O Aniruddha, because you're controlling the mind, I want my, because what is the function of the mind? The function of the mind is to accept and reject. Sankalpa, Vikalpa. Accept, reject, accept, reject. Please attract my mind so that my mind will become attracted to the Lord's lotus feet through bhakti. And it will always remain in a pure state. I don't want to be attracted. I don't want my mind to be attracted by material attractions. I want it to be attracted by bhakti. So in this way, very beautifully, Lord Shiva. And sorry, I spent so much time on this, but this is so actually significant. And it is significant for us as sadhakas to understand that unless we fix our chitta, ahankara, buddhi, manas properly on the Lord, and that is the lesson. We may or may not adopt this process of praying to Vasudev, Sankarshan, Pradyumna, Aniruddha. If we want, we can. But we don't necessarily have to follow this process like what Lord Shiva gave to the Prachitas. But what is important is we have to understand that this chitta, ahankara, buddhi and manas should be properly purified. And for us, essentially, we purify this through the process that Prabhupada and the other acharyas have given us. When we are hearing and chanting in the association of devotees, serving the spiritual master and performing all the duties that are given to us. I don't want to spend the time analyzing all of this or how they affect them. That's a very detailed discussion, but it works at all these levels. And the consciousness then can gradually be fixed. So after having fixed purified one's Antakaran and made it ready, so the inner body has been made ready to fix on the Lord. But then what about the outer body? And what about the outer senses? Because Antakaran is only one part of the self. What about the Bhayyakaran? Antakaran and Bhayya. Outside. What is outside? The body, the five elements in the body, the Indriyas. They are all going out and seeking so many things. They also need to be properly controlled and purified. Otherwise, they will create havoc. So both external and internal purification and external and internal orientation is important so that one can be fixed in transcendental consciousness. So he starts offering prayers to various devatas who are in charge. So he first prays to Surya, who is actually an expansion of Lord Aniruddha and who controls the eye. And he glorifies him. I'm not going to go into all the points that he says, but he essentially glorifies Lord Surya Dev, that you are the one who's actually nourishing all the living entities by being the cause for the rains, and so on and so forth. He glorifies him. And he says also, please, I pray to you, may my eyes be purified by your grace. So that what? So that my eyes can find its perfection. And what is the perfection? Of always being purified to see the form of the Lord. O Surya Dev, that is the perfection of the eyes. Please grant me that. O Agni Dev, who is the presiding deity of speech, please engage my words in chanting the glories of the Lord. O Soma, just like Aniruddha is in charge of the mind, Soma is the corresponding devata who is in charge of the mind, Manas. The moon very much affects the mind. So he glorifies Soma, the Lord of the moon, who's the provider of the Pitriloka. Please purify me so that I can fix my mind. How to purify? Please purify all my debts to the Pitrus, to the Devatas, to the sages, to the Jivas, so that I'll be free from all these debts so that I can focus my mind without any other distractions, exclusively in bhakti. And also Soma, because you're also in charge of taste. You are the deity, the devata, who controls the sense of taste. Make my tongue taste the sweetness of things related to the Lord, which means let me taste Krishna's prasad. So this is how the sense of taste is purified and perfected, by tasting prasad, by tasting tulasi leaf. Then he prays to Hiranyagarbha, as well as the Virat Rupa of the Lord, because they are representing the embodiment of the earth, which is the source, which is the resting place, the sattva of all living beings for us on this earth. And which is the earth being the ingredient element for the bodies. Sthaviyase. And he prays that because they are also earth represents the sense of smell, please stimulate my nose, he's praying to Hiranyagarbha and the Virata Rupa, so that I can smell what? The fragrance of the Lord. Engage my body and everyone's body in the Lord's service. So smell also will be purified. Then Vayu, who's the predominating deity of air, and air represents all the Pancha Pranas, please enter my mind, senses and body as the various forces such as Saha, Ojas and Bala, and make them suitable for worshipping the Lord. Also Vayu is responsible for controlling the sense of touch So please stimulate my touch function in such a way, O Vayudev, that I can feel through the sense of touch the softness of the body of the Lord. So this is how he meditates on every sense. See, spiritualization of every element, every sense, it's not a purification. The purification here is not purification in the sense that there is some infection inside that needs to be removed. The purification is removing the desire for selfish enjoyment through those elements and senses and dedicating those elements in connection with the Lord. Because that is the perfect utilization of the senses and the ingredients. And that is the process of spiritualization. The same thing he prays to Nabha, the deity of ether, which controls sound. Make my ears hear the beauty about the Lord. Reveal to me through the name, the meaning of the name, the meaning of the mantra, and the meaning of the scriptures. And then he prays to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the ultimate giver of all inspiration and all results. He says, I offer my obeisances unto you. He glorifies the Supreme Lord. He's already glorified the Antakaran, and he's spoken about the various elements which constitute the body and the senses. And then he says, O Lord, you are the instigator of dharmas. You are the one who is giving all kinds of results, both good results for those who perform good karma and for those who perform adharma. To them also you give results. You are the ultimate giver of death and miseries. You are the topmost benedictor. You are the Varadaraj, Ashisham Isha. You are the cause of all causes. So please, O Lord, I offer my respects to you. And finally, I offer my respects to Lord Shiva. Because just like Sankarshan is the deity controlling Ahankara, the Lord, in the material world, Rudra is the presiding deity amongst the Devatas who controls the Ahankara. So your Lord Shiva is praying. He's telling the Prachetas, you have to pray to me also. Indirectly, he's saying, because I am controlling the Ahankara also. So may the Lord's mercy purify this false egoism. This wrong mamatva, aham mama, in terms of the material body or the material mind, Bahyakaran and Antakaran is not the real self. The real self is the transcendental spirit soul. So let my ahankar be, ahankar, Prabhupada says ego cannot be destroyed because ego means sense of identity. We don't destroy the ego, we transform the false ego into the pure ego. False ego is I am this body and mind, and pure ego is aham brahmasmi. I am transcendental, I am servant of the Lord, I am spiritual, I am spirit soul. I am a pure soul performing devotional activity to the Supreme Soul. That is the perfection of ego. So that is the identity. Identity is never lost. It's just that we need to awaken to our real identity. So having prayed like this, purifying the body, senses, mind by offering respects to the various deities, essentially he has prepared himself, Lord Shiva, and by preparing himself by the demo, because he's doing a demonstration, right? He is teaching the Prachetas, this is how you have to purify and make yourself ready to meditate on the Lord. And now after this, he explains how one should see, visualize and meditate on the transcendental form of the Lord. And he starts describing the transcendental beauty of the Lord, which though I wanted to discuss today, we could not. So we will come to that in the next class. I'll try to go faster so we can try to complete the chapter in the next conversation. So this is a very important thing. So again, just a quick recap before we close. That while we want to fix our consciousness on the Lord, fixing the consciousness requires purification. There's a lot of preparatory work. Yes. There's a lot of preparatory work. Some people, there was one, I don't remember who that personality was. There was one sports person. And I may not be narrating the whole episode exactly, but I think the gist you will get it. So please forgive me if some of the details are not exactly accurate. That particular sports person, he won a gold medal in I think it was a 100-meter sprint or something like that. And the interviewer later was glorifying him and said, just in 10 seconds, you have won the gold medal. How do you feel? Something to that effect. This may not be the exact words, but he asked him a question to that effect, and the answer was no. This was not a 10 seconds to win the gold medal. Last 5 years since the last Olympics, I have been working hard to make myself of the standard so that I can perform in these 10 seconds and win the gold medal. So you are seeing only the 10 seconds. You are seeing only the perfection, but you're not seeing the work that has gone behind. There is so much preparation, there is so much sweat, there are so many tears. There is so much of training, hard work, diet, frustration, sacrifices to make myself ready and fit to give this kind of performance. And so sometimes we may not see behind the scenes. We only see, oh, so wonderful. Oh, he looks so wonderful. Oh, he has a wonderful body. He has such a wonderful physique. But who knows what all these individuals may be doing, the kind of hard work and sacrifice to be able to maintain that level of fitness. So the point is, in our case, fixing the mind on the Lord, those who are able to do that means they have achieved that purification. That means they have worked very hard for many lifetimes potentially to come to that point. It's not easy. If it was so easy, then this is the only one line we need to tell and people can follow. It's very difficult to follow without going through the proper training and process. So for us also, the key message for us practically is, if we want to be able to be focused on the Lord, we have to purify our consciousness. And the main process for us to purify our consciousness is chanting the holy name, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, Cheto Darpana Marjana. And for the buddhi, we have to read scriptures, Gita and Bhagavatam, like we are discussing now, so that the buddhi becomes fixed. We purify our ahankar by taking a humble position in front of Guru, Krishna and the Vaishnavas, by surrendering to them and humbly serving them. Trinadapi sunichena tarorapi sahishnuna amanina manadena kirtaniya sadahari. We purify the ego and we say, Jivera Swarupoi Krishnera Nityadas. Eternally. Gopi Bhartur Padakamalayur Das Anudas. That's how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says. Somebody asked him, what is your identity? He had given up all mamatva. Of course, at an external level, he is the Lord himself, but he had taken sannyas and he says that, I have no other identity other than I am the servant of the servant of the servant of the Lord of the Gopis. That is my identity. That is my mamatva. That is my identity, and that is how I see my connection. No other material identity. Sarvopadi vinirmuktam tatparatvena nirmalam rishikena rishikesha sevanam bhaktiruttama. And the mind, of course, the mind and chitta are very close. When we are absorbed in looking at the transcendental deity form of the Lord, when we look and worship as a transcendental deity form of the Lord, all our senses become attracted, including the mind, because the mind is grouped around the senses. When we eat Krishna's prasad, when we smell tulsi and the garlands offered to the Lord, the incense offered to the Lord, the chandan offered to the Lord, when we see the deity so beautifully dressed, that's why we are posting pictures of the deity so beautifully dressed every day. When we see them, our chitta becomes and our mana becomes very pleased, and it retains that impressions and it becomes absorbed in thinking of the Lord. So the process we already have. Of course, on top of that, if you want to pray to Vasudeva, Aniruddha, Vasudeva, Sankarshan, Pradyumna and Aniruddha, that is fine. But of course, by worshipping Krishna, we worship all the other deities. But the point again is, it is very important, because if we do not take proper care to purify this, we will be frustrated in our attempts to focus our consciousness on the Lord. We will not be able to. You cannot say, I will not work for 5 years, I will come straight for Olympics. I'll have my lunch in, McDonald's restaurant, and after that I will walk straight into Olympics and I will run. Does it work like that? No. A lot of preparation is needed. So that is what we do in sadhana. Sadhana bhakti is the process of gradual purification of our Antakaran and Bhahyakaran, of our inner and outer selves, so that we can become purified and be able to fix our consciousness on the Lord without deviation, which is the real goal of life. Mayyeva mana adatsva, mayi buddhim niveshaya, nivasasyasi mayyeva ata urdhvam na samshaya. So having said that, I will take a pause. So we have discussed up to verse 43, and then we will continue by describing the Lord's glorious form. The description of the Lord's glorious form is very similar to some of the descriptions of the Lord in the 3rd canto, as well as in the 4th canto earlier. So I will go through that a little bit faster, but it is very, very beautiful, of course. And Krishna willing, we will aim to complete the chapter. Let us see. Okay. Thank you very much. I'm opening up the floor if there is any question. Hare Krishna. Okay, so if there's no question, thank you all very much. Today is Anand Sundari Mataji's birthday, so we request all the devotees to give best wishes. Those who are younger to her can give best wishes. Those who are elder to her can give her blessings. Those who are equal to her can also give best wishes. Haribo. Yes, Anand Sundari Mataji, you want to say something?
Thank you. Thank you so much, Prabhu. Thank you. I'm very humbled by your blessings and best wishes.
I can't bless you. I'm younger to you. So
no, but only by in material age, Prabhu, but in by spiritually you're very much advanced. So I think
I don't think so, but anyway, my best wishes are with you. So
yeah, that all our
wonderful
spiritual desires be fulfilled, and that we advance spiritually and always remain humble and do service for Guru Krishna and help in the propagation of Srila Prabhupada's mission.
Haribo.
All with Hare Krishna.
So request all the devotees to bless her that Krishna may fulfill her desire.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you, Mataji.
Hare
The best.
Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Okay, so we will end here, and I will see you on Wednesday. By the way, just to quickly make a note, next Friday is Balram Purnima. If I'm not wrong, at least in Malaysia, it's on Friday. I think India, I was told by some that it is on Thursday in some places, but I'm not sure. Please check your local calendar. Balram Purnima is the appearance day of Balram. So maybe on Wednesday we'll decide what we want to do, whether we want to do Saturday class or we want to discuss Balram's Leela a day earlier or whatever. Let us see. What is all of your preference? Anybody? What do you think? Of course, on the day of Balram Purnima, if you can go to the local temple, that is encouraged. That is, so we wouldn't want to do a class on the day itself, because we would want everybody to go to the temple as far as possible. But either a day earlier or on Saturday, we could discuss about Balram's glories. So think about it and let me know. Okay, thank you very much. Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai,
Yeah.
Samaveta Gaurava